You're listening to The Reel Down, sponsored by Ketch Photo Release Tournaments. This is your premier tournament source. Here are your hosts, Sam Jones and Dan Perry. Welcome back. You're listening to another episode of The Reel Down on the Paddle and Fin podcast. We got an awesome show lined up for you tonight. We got two amazing guests, 2017 national champion Kurt Smits and Rookie of the Year for KBF, Derek Brundle. What's going on, boys?
How we doing?
Welcome.
You guys doing good?
Oh, yeah.
Getting settled in back home from your long road trips? You both had long road trips. Kurt, You're in Ohio, and Derek, you're what, Massachusetts?
Man.
Yeah. So long road trips there.
Yeah,
it was guaranteed. It was guaranteed money. Yeah.
Dan, how you doing tonight, man?
Living a dream. Happy to be here. We have some storms coming in tonight, so hopefully my internet will hold up. But yeah, doing good.
Yeah, it's icing and raining and snowing all at the same time here. So good old Indiana.
Same.
All right. Well, let's get into this thing. So, who wants to go first? Who wants to get this thing started off? We want to talk about the 10, or we want to talk about Seminole?
Let the champ go first.
All right. I like it. All right. So, so the two tournaments that we're covering tonight, obviously Lake Seminole, the Hobie Bass Open Series kicked off down there, and what a tough event. I mean, it could have gone either way, right? It could have been an absolute slugfest, or it could have been what it was, which was an event where a lot of people really struggled.
Well, wait a minute.
I struggled.
Wait a minute. And I'm going to say it right now, man. Those top two guys, Josh and Jake, that was a slugfest, man.
Fair enough.
101 inches in the first 45 minutes.
Unreal.
Day one, man, that is like a baseball bat right across your face. Right there, man. This was a slugfest. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't a hard fishing for a lot of people, but the two guys that really figured out that really, really big fish bite for both days, it was a slugfest between those two guys.
But let's say this: you were the only one in the top three who actually increased their weight on the second day too. So they did great. But hey, don't be too humble, because you came back and you almost you were making a run for it. So
I mean, I'm not trying to say like what ifs, but my main lake spot, if that would have had fish day one, because it was reloading during practice.
Yeah.
If they would have been active on day one, I would have had about the same bag limit for 2 days, which would have brought me closer. Still wouldn't have been to put me over the top of those guys, but it would have been closer,
Well, let's talk about this real quick. Guy puts up 101.50, and in the first hour, like you said, is it Josh? How do you say his last? Counts? Josh Counts, I think it is.
Yep.
Anyway, puts up 101.50, like 21.50, 21.25, 20.50, 19.25, 19. Like, I just picture this guy rolling back to the ramp, getting in the truck, driving back, and he's just watching the leaderboard, drinking coffee with his boss glasses on, just like, ha, I got you.
Man, he fished the rest of the day, he said. He said he kept fishing. He moved from that spot because he didn't want to beat it up too bad, and kept fishing and upgraded one of those fish throughout the day.
Wow. So he went practicing.
If you're upgrading any fish on a 101-inch bag, I mean, dude, slugfest. Giants.
That is a slugfest. So I'm curious. I'm curious to where he was fishing. I'm curious to where others were fishing. It sounds like one of two things, and we're going to get into it. Either it was a really difficult, a really particular bite that only a couple people figured out, or it sounds like maybe, hey, part of the lake was on fire, the rest of the lake was not. So I want to kind of get into that with you, Kurt. So obviously you finished in third place, as we've said, 169 inches, so only 10 inches off of the lead. So typically, right, that would be like a bigger number, would seem more drastic. But when we're talking about a guy who puts up 100 inches on day one, and you put up 80, closing that gap by you had a 20-inch gap. Closing it down to 10 is actually pretty impressive in my eyes. So, and then it falls off. Like you have Jason Broach was at 168 right behind you, but then it was 144. That's like a like an average bag. That's not.
Those guys weren't catching a full bag the second or first day. That's what's
Right.
happening there. That's what you're seeing happen there. They're missing a fish, so that number drops off real quick. But so, like, the guy right behind me, right? He only had 4 fish day 2, I believe. So.
Day 2, he had 94 inches.
Or day 1. Was it day 1?
Yeah, day 1, 74 inches.
Yeah, so he was a fish short on day 1. So that would have changed everything right there. I mean, it was a slugfest, man. It was a slugfest. Now, these are Florida bass, and we did have that cold front roll in that week before, and it just stayed cold the whole time. And those fish don't like it, man. But, I mean, if you got on the bite, it seemed like they were big fish. A lot of them were.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you think it was a particular portion of the lake that was turned on and the rest wasn't, or do you think it was just getting in the right area and throwing something very particular?
Yeah, it was finding the fish that were biting and figuring out what they were biting on. That was the deal, and that's why it was so hard, because people were finding fish, but they just couldn't get them to bite. They're Florida bass, you know what I mean? I don't have a lot of experience with Florida bass, but everyone tells you that they'll just completely shut down in these cold fronts.
And what? And I think it was only 12 people, 10 or 12 people had 5 fish on both days. When did you get there at practice? How many days did you get?
I had 3 days of practice. I was there. I got down Tuesday, but I didn't fish Tuesday. I had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the tournament for Saturday and Sunday.
And did you practice all over the lake, or I know we had talked offline, and you said that you were out at Wingate, and that's where you put in, and that's where you caught them. Did you practice all over, or was that just one launch?
I practiced a couple different spots, but, there was just something about Wingate when I fished there that it just set up good for me, and I just liked it. It was close to the house, so I literally had a 5-minute drive.
Wow.
I've never had a 5-minute drive in the morning where I could just get up and go, I'll get to the ramp at 6:45 because we're going to launch at 7. You know what I mean? It was just so close to my house where we were staying, and it just set up good. There was a big junk fishing area that I knew I could get numbers off of, and then when I found that main lake spot, there was a couple spots in the main lake, but one of them was better than the other two. That just set up good for me. I mean, it was perfect Texas rig, finesse fishing. The only place I found rocks in the whole lake.
Rocks. I definitely did not find rocks. Okay.
Rocks.
Now we're talking. Was there some kind of research or something that you saw before that kind of keyed you into that's where you wanted to be?
Yeah. I mean, when you just look at it there, the makeup of the land, and I was pre-fishing with my buddy Mitchell, who anytime we are fishing tournaments together, we're good friends, so we'll pre-fish together. You know what I mean? He fishes different than me, so we pre-fish good together. He's a real reaction bait guy, and I'm a very finessey guy. So he'll do his strength, I'll do mine, and we'll just cover one big area, and we'll know what the bite is because he's throwing different stuff than me. And it was actually his idea to go there. And I was like, and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, that looks killer, man. Let's go there. And, the real killer part is once I got out to the main lake, after I got done fishing shallow, I went out to the main lake and just scanned. I just used my Torpedo and I ran, I don't even know how many miles, just miles and miles and miles in the main lake, just looking. And when I saw my side scan, I saw this hump, and it wasn't real prominent on Navionics. You could hardly see it on a map, because the maps aren't that detailed for, at least the ones I was looking at, which is Navionics, weren't very detailed, and it didn't really show it super clear on the map, but there was a hump, and there was a series of humps, so there was 2 humps. One hump had weeds growing up that turned into a map, and then within 10 feet of that hump was a rock pile on another hump, right? And then that one kind of elongated out and didn't have anything on it and was completely clean on this hump, surrounded by, it was like 25 feet of water on one side and 20 something on the other side. And when I say main lake, it wasn't really on the main channel. It was just, if you look at the map down there, there's like a main channel, then there's like a secondary channel, and then there's almost like sometimes there's almost like a third channel on it. And I don't know what these are exactly, but maybe they're old mountains or hills or something. But I was like on that second one in between the really what I'd call the main lake and then the flat that was up from it.
And
but I mean, it's juicy, man, right? I mean, you see something that grows up and makes a mat next to a rock pile and next to one of the only clear humps I found in the whole lake. All the other humps had grass all over them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different. It was like the only thing I found that was like different in the lake. And during practice, man, it was, I shook off like 4 good fish. I just shook them off that route there, and they were good fish. I shook each one off. But the thing is that when I went out there on day 1, they just weren't there, or they weren't biting. I didn't see them on my fish finder, and they weren't there. Like, I don't know where they went. They were there for 2 days of practice, and then not there.
So that rock formation, do you think that was a natural formation that was there, or you think somebody dumped those there, or you think that was a foundation? Okay, I think somebody put it there.
And they were square, whatever it was. They were like really big and square, right? So when I saw them, they stood out in my side scan because
so maybe like old bridge, something would make up old bridge, or
there was nothing else there. So I don't know what it was, honestly. I don't know if it was just some garbage that was left there before they flooded the lake. There was no roadbeds near it on avionics. There was really nothing near it. It was just like and the rock pile wasn't very big. I mean, less than the size of my car.
Very cool. Well, that's an interesting find. So I think what's interesting about this episode and having you both on is we got 2 tournaments in a very similar landscape going on at the same time. So Derek, let's bring you into the conversation here a little bit. And let's get a little play back and forth on what these two. So you're in Florida. Seminole's right there on the Florida Georgia line, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not a plug for Florida Georgia line. So
terrible music. No,
if you're listening, FGL, that was not a plug. So don't get excited.
So Seminole's like an hour northwest of Tallahassee if you're looking at a map.
So what's the so did anybody know the difference between the two? Did anybody make the drive?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they were wearing snowsuits up there. I mean, we had a lot warmer weather down a little bit further south. I mean, I was trying to drive and watch at the same time as I was coming back. Probably not the safest thing, but I saw that everybody was bundled up, so it definitely looked a lot colder there. I know most of the days out of both tournaments that I fished got into the 60s, high 60s, low 70s at least. So, I mean, I think our weather was substantially warmer than up there. Kurt, what did you guys have for water temp up there?
50. It started at 54 and went down to 51 while we were
Holy cow, yeah. I didn't see anything less than 59, and some points I had a temperature like 66.
I was jealous of you guys, man, because every time I checked in on you guys, everyone's wearing shorts and flip-flops.
Oh, yeah, man.
They're all hanging out.
And
well, I'm not a good judge of that because I'm from New England. I wear shorts when it's like 60 because that's like summer here. So most people think I'm nuts anyways, but yeah, I mean, it was nice. It really felt good to have the sun on my face, and the weather seemed a lot warmer where I was than where you guys were for sure.
Kurt was in a house. I was out in a tent at Seminole State Park, and I'll tell you what, it got cold. It got down into the 30s. So I remember the first day of the tournament, the water level, we got out there. Yeah, I think first cast was at 7:30, and it was fine for about an hour, and then the water temperature started dropping. A cold front came through, and it was noticeably colder. And the water, I mean, it only dropped like at 1 degree, but I could see it on my graph that was going down because I felt it too.
Now, Brundle, is it true that I think I heard that the water temperature had dropped 20 degrees the week prior to your event, though. They were been in the 70s almost all winter, and then it plummeted with that cold front. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. My buddy Cam Smith was down there for the BASS Open, and he told me he had like substantially warmer temperatures, almost up into the 70s, which I was like thrilled for because I figured every fish should be on the beds when we got there and all that. And then I watched that weather forecast go downhill, and it definitely chilled the water off for sure.
But yet you still did find one on a bed.
One. Literally was one, and it was like a 9-pounder.
Yeah, so tell us about that. Tell us the story. How does that go down? I want to hear it.
It was crazy, man. I was on Toho, and we pre-fished it a little bit, but we bounced around because there was so many lakes to choose from down there, you know. And there's just way too much water to cover. We got there. Well, we left here up in Massachusetts on Saturday morning. We got there on Sunday morning. We drove straight through. I think we went straight to... Yeah, we fished Toho first day. We went straight to Toho.
No sleep. You drove all the way through.
Dude,
9 hours.
When I get in the truck, it's like, I got to go. My adrenaline's pumping. There's tournament coming. I need to get there. I had 2 dudes with me, and those dudes slept. Like, they're like, you want me to drive? I'm like, no, I'm good. Just rip it. I ended up getting down to, we left here at like 4 in the morning. I got to Big Toho Marina at 3:30. Went to sleep till 5:30. Woke up, and they were like loading the tournament up. They had like 50 bass boats getting ready to go in. I was like, oh, man. So we took off and went to a different ramp. And went out pre-fished. It was terrible for me pre-fishing. I think I caught like one that was like 11.5 inches. But anyways, fast forward to that fish you were talking about. I had just gotten out into some like random reed patches, and I had the motor guide going, and I was just running the edges of them with a chatterbait, and I was catching them pretty good, white and chartreuse chatterbait. But I happened to be looking down as I was reeling up my chatterbait because they were hitting like within a foot of the boat, man. It was like they were tracking it, and then they would come up and eat it like right beside my transducer most of the time. So I happened to be looking down, and I went over a bed, and I've been over some beds, but they were vacant. You know what I mean? The fish were gone, and I went over the bed, and I seen this thing down there, and it was like massive. I went, oh my goodness. So I just shut the motor off and drifted over to the side, and then hit the pinpoint GPS anchor and sat there for a minute and kind of gathered myself. And I threw a Cinco in there about, I don't know, 100 times. She picked it up by the blue tip once, moved it off the bed. It was only 10 feet from me, and it was like the clearest water I've seen yet. I watched her pick it up and drop it off the side of the net, off the side of the bed. And I was like, man, she's not going to bite. And then I threw the chatterbait down and kind of ran it down across quick, and she didn't pay any attention to it. And then I did that 3 or 4 times, and I could see her fins starting to flutter a little bit, so I knew she was getting mad. So I know back here in Massachusetts, when it's bedtime, that fish cannot resist that little tiny jerky J on a drop shot. You throw that thing in the bed, and it looks like a shiner eating some eggs or something, and they go ballistic on it. So it had been about an hour, and I was dreading it because it was such a big fish, and I had 10-pound tests on my drop shot rod, and she was right on the edge of those pencil reeds down there. But I said, you know what, I'm going to try it anyways. I threw it in there, and she ate it immediately. That little rod just folded right over, man, and I grabbed the rod and I grabbed the spool of the reel because she was running into those reeds. I figured if she was going to break me off, she was going to, break me off. So as soon as I did that and I put as much pressure on as I could and kind of leaned back on her, she turned and swam right out in open water like that never happens, you know what I mean? And then I just got off of the anchor button and let her pull me around for a little bit. Got her to the boat, went to net her, and she freaked out. I'm glad I have a good drag on that Daiwa Tatula spinning reel, and it was just, and I almost like lost it. And I got her back, and I finally netted her, and yeah, it was pretty cool. It was cool.
How deep of water was she in?
Like 5 feet.
5 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, that was actually the deepest bed I saw too. All the rest of them were in like 10 to 12 inches of water. They were real shallow.
So was that a PB for you?
It was, yeah. Yep.
So were most of your other bites on the jackhammer then for the tournament?
Actually, it was, the cheap old $4.99 chatterbait that they wouldn't bite the jackhammer for some reason. I couldn't get them to bite the jackhammer. And another buddy of mine that lives down there told me, try that cheap $4.99 chatterbait, the original one. He said, I've been catching them on that. So I threw that thing on, and I mean, this is it right here. I mean, this thing is just beat up completely. I mean, the busted one of the tails off. I mean, half the skirt's missing. And
I would love to see somebody do a sound wave test and a vibration test on those baits.
They feel completely different on the rod.
Yeah.
And normally that jackhammer will outperform that cheap one anytime. But I don't know what it was. I mean, I had the same color, same gold blade. I mean, I don't know what the difference was, but I got maybe half the bites on the jackhammer that I got on the cheap one.
Interesting. Kurt, so you're a finesse guy, I know that, and you said that earlier in the podcast. What was it for you? What was your top techniques down there? And,
so it was a Texas rig when I was on the main lake. And then when I was junk fishing, I was just throwing like a wacky rigged worm, man. Just one of these guys, man.
Okay.
Okay. Just throwing at everything when I was junk fishing.
What color were you using?
I was using a couple different ones, but the kudzu. Can you guys see that? It's like a really light green that has flake in it.
Huh. Okay.
And it looks killer in the water.
Do you think that maybe part of figuring out the bite down there at Seminole was matching the hatch and particularly matching tilapia?
Honestly, I don't know, man. Is that what a tilapia looks like? Does it look like a green little slender worm that's going like this in the water? I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. Obviously, when I was Texas rigging and I was throwing a crawl and a small worm, it obviously looks like a minnow or it looks like a crawl, right? There's no question about those two. But I don't know, man, because they would come out and grab it. Yeah. Like it didn't have to be right in front of them. I would see these squirrels and then they would smack it.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
So I'm not sure what it was imitating. You know what I mean?
Well, I just wonder if sometimes they key in on not necessarily the profile, but on the color. And
it was a color gig, man. I threw some other colors, and they weren't they either weren't nearly as effective, or they didn't catch any fish.
Now, did you notice a difference between because you guys had a mix of sun and clouds while you were down there, right?
Yep. It was changing nonstop. Yeah.
Did you notice a difference in the bite on that particular worm or color, depending on sun or cloud?
It's hard to say because for me, day one was mostly cloudy, and then day two was all sunshine. But there was so much pressure. You went to Wingate. There was so much pressure there from fishing from day one. I mean, how many people do you think were fishing there? 20 people?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, at least.
And that's just kayak guys. I mean, there was big boats and everybody else.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure there on day one. So my day two bite, I found a bunch of small fish, junk fish, and I didn't find any of my quality fish. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but it was sunny. That changed too. So maybe the sunshine made them key in on the color even more, and they're like, well, that doesn't really look like what I want. You know what I mean? It's hard to say because there was so much pressure there on day one. I mean, I was really worried about day two going back out there and junk fishing, just because everybody was fishing shallow. I didn't see anyone fishing on the main channel, but everyone was fishing shallow.
Okay. So let's talk about this real quick. This was the start to the season, right? For both of you, this is kicking it off, setting the tone. How and Derek, we'll start with you first. Mm-hmm. How big was this to to the momentum going into the rest of the season? Like, how big was this, and how much of an impact did it have on you to have this type of a finish and this type of a showing at that event?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, anytime you can, start the year off well, kind of gives you that boost. And especially down there, being that it was, the whole 10 and the 10 Invitational deal, plus the whole deal of staying in the mansion and all that, and all the film crews and everything. So there was quite a bit of pressure to finish well. Luckily, that did happen. And I think that it'll really help me confidence-wise moving forward. I mean, we're going down to Santee Cooper next month, at the end of this month, and hopefully carry that confidence in, because I think you guys will all agree. I mean, when you're confident, you fish way better. When you got that initial backing of, I think I took home like $5,000 or something from everything that happened down there. So the initial backing of that takes a lot of the pressure off of, because I'm an average dude. I still work every day. I even work on the weekend. I work a lot. When I'm not fishing, I'm working. So, having
well, you're no longer an average dude, my friend. You're the
well, I'm still the same dude. And I still have the same job, which is really cool, because I pretty much laid it on the line to them before I went down there. That sounds funny to say, but fishing comes first, and they were really cool with that. They were like, hey, whatever. I take care of a bunch of group homes up here, and I'm responsible for all the maintenance and the upkeep and passing all the state inspections and all that. And we do very well with that. So they're very happy. So they basically told me, make your own schedule, do your thing, go fishing. As long as our stuff looks the way it's supposed to, you'll hear no issues from us. So that also made it a lot easier going forward. So, I mean, I'll take as much advantage of that as I can. And try and hit as many of these tournaments as I can. So
do you think placing where you did in the Invitational, because from an outsider looking in and watching all the go lives and the videos and looking through the pictures and stuff like that, like, you had a certain swag going into the actual 10. Like,
absolutely.
You could tell, like, you were feeling really good about where you finished. No, you didn't get the win, but you were feeling really good going into the 10, right? Is that a fair
absolutely.
assumption?
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I always just try and shoot for like a top 10 finish, in anything that I start off in, and then as the tournament progresses, I try and push myself a little further to be, hopefully in that top 5. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not, but I mean.
Well, wait. Hold on. Last year, speaking of top 10, I pulled this number off KBF Tourney X. Last year, you had 20 tournaments and you were in the top 10, 17 of them. Woo. That's crazy. So I mean, if your goal is top 10, dude, you are getting it done.
You need to set your goals higher, my man.
I agree.
You obviously accomplished what you set out to do. Yeah. So I'm thinking, man, a top 10, so what's behind that? Is that, that's where the money line is, and you want to make sure that you're in the money? Is that a financial thing, or is that just what drives that?
I think it's twofold, really, to be honest with you. Again, like I said, I'm a working guy, so the financial aspect, definitely. I wouldn't say I need to cash a check every time, but it helps to, ease the tension of leaving the house quite often to go do this stuff. I mean, and my wife is super accepting. I couldn't ask for a better person for that. But knowing that I don't take any money from my household money to pay for any of this fishing stuff is really huge for me. And then, honestly, I think consistency will get you to the goal every time. I mean, there's a certain, obviously, I don't know how you'd want to say it, but a certain goal of winning one. I do want to win, but I am definitely happy just to make a top 10. And I mean, we fish with some of the best anglers in the country out here, and to finish 6, in that top 10 as often as I have is really an accomplishment for me, and something that I feel is just as important as winning.
Absolutely. You should definitely be proud of your track record. And I know Scott said it a little bit on his show, but for people that don't listen to Scott's show, you should, by the way, go listen to that. But in case you don't, Scott's talked about it a couple times. Nobody really knew your name going into the championship last year. Now I did, because we had hung out. Where were we? Where did we meet? It was like up in Connecticut. That's right.
Yep.
So we met up in Connecticut at a show, and so I kind of been watching you. But you kind of came in like nobody really knew who you were, other than your local clubs and stuff. Right. And there you are making a run, not only for Rookie of the Year, but you're really kind of in the Angler of the Year race as well.
Third.
So, I mean, you've come out of kind of nowhere, but I can't imagine there are too many people that seriously follow it now that don't know the name Derek Brundle. So. You should definitely be proud of what you've accomplished in your first year and a couple months.
Yeah, no, I mean I definitely am, and it's been a fun journey for sure, and I just want to continue on that. You know what I mean? I like to, like I said, I like to stay consistent. So I do my research for I've said it before, but I do research 2 hours every day. On my next upcoming tournament until I get there. Then I do 2 hours on the next one every time. So there's a lot that goes behind all that, and trying to catch up, and not being as seasoned as a lot of these guys out here. I'm still learning, thank God. And I think once I stop learning, I'll probably stop fishing. But yeah, I mean it's definitely something that I'm striving for this year to try and put one in the W column. So yeah, I mean it's hopefully it'll continue, and people will continue to follow me and grow my followings and things like that. That's important. So
what do you think? Okay, so you talked about all the pre-work you do going into a tournament. So for our listeners, for guys who are wanting to get into tournament fishing and they're trying to figure out what that magic formula is, right? What are 3 tips pre-tournament you would give to someone about preparing that prep time?
So I would say number 1 is networking, getting to know a lot of these guys out here, getting to know some of these folks that you're fishing against, and being honest with them, and then I'll be honest, I reach out to a lot of people that I haven't even met before, and sometimes you got to steer through some of the information, but there's a lot of guys out there that are willing to help you learn, especially some of these lakes that you've never been to or whatever. So definitely you want to communicate with other anglers and do that social networking, and try and get somebody you can lean on, and be that person that if you have information, you don't have to tell them your super secret hole or anything like that, but there's a lot of guys that actually in the 10, I went up to somebody and gave them one of my Casey Reed and the 10 Invitational right before I caught that 9-pounder. Come by, and he was having trouble catching fish, and I said, listen, man, I'm catching them on this stupid old $4.99 chatterbait. I got one left. I'll give it to you. He took it and he went on about his day. I don't think he caught anything on it, but when I saw him at the ramp, I sure asked for it. I asked back for it because that was my last 2 that I had. But just doing stuff like that and communicating with other guys will help you out in the long run. Number 2, YouTube is your friend. I mean, there is more videos out there on every single lake that you'll ever go to. It's sure all the stuff can look the same and stuff like that, but if you pay attention to the backgrounds and you pay attention to these other things, you can pick out landmarks and things like that. And I hate to use the word because it's kind of foolish, but you can triangulate where that person is in a general area, and it might be a place you can go and start. And then I know Kurt had said it earlier, Navionics is a great way to learn a lake. You can look at it on your phone, even if you're 1,000 miles away, and you can start looking for bottom structure and things like that, and then get there, put your Torpedo on or your motor guide or your pedals, and you paddle, and you go and just run that lake and find one of the key things that I think he said earlier was find something that's different. A lot of places in the lake can hold fish, but there's something different is where you're going to find, I think, that bigger caliber of fish.
How about you, Kurt?
Say the questions again.
So what would be 3 tips you would give other anglers on pre-fishing at the time leading up to a tournament? What are you doing to prepare, and some tips that you can give people?
It goes along exactly like Derek was saying. I mean, it's just so much about preparing and putting the time in. And you put 2 hours a night in, that beats me. And not many people beat me in how much time I put into tournament prep like that. But I mean, just being consistently looking for stuff and learning how to use Google the right way, right? Because people will get on there and just be like, and they won't know how to search, man. Search for old fishing reports, old ones, 10 years old will be, man, there's nuggets in there of gold that will give you a starting point, because honestly, you're not going to find the secret honey hole this way. You're probably not going to find it off YouTube videos. You're not going to find it off of someone's Facebook page. But if you can figure out the seasonality of the lake, the historical weather on the lake, and you've got a place to start from where you can at least get a clue to what the fish are doing, in the shortest amount of time possible. Because let's face it, we all don't have a week to pre-fish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at best, I get 3 days. Yep. At best, right? I mean, a lot of times it's 2, and sometimes it's none. So, I mean, if you can get someplace and get out there and be like, hey, I got a pattern, I got something to go off of. They're fishing deep, they're in deep water, they're in shallow water. I mean, just getting that starting place is so huge for me. And I tell you, before I get a starting place, man, I'm a nervous wreck about going to a tournament. Until I feel like I've read something or seen something that says, this is where I should start at, I'm a nervous wreck, man. I'm a nervous wreck. And I'll tell you, if you just email some of these Facebook guys who are prolific YouTubers, and if you just email them, a lot of times these guys will offer you killer information on places to start. They're definitely not going to tell you their honey holes, but man, they'll tell you, hey, the bite's been on a silver red-eye shad, ½ ounce, ripping it over the weeds, or something like that gives you a starting point. Because and that's the biggest thing for me, because I don't really want to know their honey hole. I don't really care. I don't really care where other people fish. I want to find my own fish. Like at Wingate, right? That main lake hump point, no one fished it. I never saw anyone on it the whole time I was down there. It was just me. I was the only person to fish it. I never saw a motorboat on it. I never saw kayakers on it. So, I mean, to find some unmolested fish like that are willing to bite. I mean, the bite wasn't crazy good out there. It was good for like a ½ hour, but it wasn't like a magic bite, I had to work for the fish out there. But, I mean, that's the first thing, is just finding a starting point. And really just being prepared when you get down there, man. Don't restring your rods if you don't have to the night before the tournament, or the one day you're down there, you're sitting there playing with your spools. Get all that stuff done at home, man. If you need to put new line on, be prepared. Put the new line on at home, man. Don't wait till you get to the lake. Don't put that stuff off, because all that does is chew up the time you have for fishing and for learning the lake when you're down there. I mean, I put blinders on when I get to those lakes like that for pre-fishing, man. I hardly talk to my wife. I hardly talk to any of my friends that aren't staying in the house with me, because once I get down there, the time is so limited, man. Literally every waking second is geared towards trying to figure out where the fish are. But in that, I'm having a good time with my buddies, because they're all doing the same thing, and we're all sharing the same passion with that.
Awesome.
And usually when I'm staying with people, we share some information in the house.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's the winning strategy right there, or at least the strategy to being really consistent, which I think everybody wants to have a little more consistency in their finishes. Now, Kurt, let's backtrack a little bit where this conversation all began, and then we kind of went down this wormhole here, which is great. We had some really great insights there. what did kicking off your 2020 season like this mean for you?
Well, we have to go back to last year, right, for me. And it started with AJ McCorth telling me about the TOC and his plans for it. Before it was announced, right, he was just like, I want to let you know this is coming, this is what we're thinking. And when he told me, I was like, I'm all in, man. 2019, I'm making the TOC.
Yeah.
That didn't happen, right? I mean, I tried really, really hard, and I just, for whatever my excuses are and whatever my reasons are, I just couldn't make it happen in 2019. So, man, that was my sole goal, regardless of where I placed or how I did in this event, was to make the TOC, which means a top 3 finish.
And you did it.
And I made it in the first event.
Yeah.
That's huge to me.
Hell yeah.
That right there is huge to me. That goal right there was, and it's really put my head in a different space now for the rest of the season, man. You know, I've upped now that major goal, which was my season-long goal, has been accomplished. Now my goals are even, you know, they're much higher now.
Sky's the limit now.
Yeah.
I know. Awesome. I know that you're a Hobie guy. Does that mean now that you've qualified for the TOC, are you going to focus on the bass and the KBF stuff more now that you've already qualified, or what are you thinking on that?
Well, also remember in the Hobie series this year, there's going to be an Angler of the Year.
Yeah, win one of those boats too. Yeah.
Man, so I don't care about the dumb boat, man. To be honest with you.
You don't want that orange boat?
Man,
he wants that title.
I personally don't care about the boat, man. But the title of Angler of the Year in the Hobie series, you know what I mean? Those guys, that would be huge, right? And then with the third place finish, that puts me in a very good spot for my point situation to move forward with them. So honestly, instead of me concentrating on other events, it's actually making me redouble down on the Hobie events. But I am about to do bass at Logan Martin.
Is that your next event? Because that was going to be my next question: is where are you guys headed next? Are you heading to Logan Martin next, or are you going to fill in something else?
Nope, Logan Martin's next, man. I'm all focused. I was spending hours today looking at the maps and found some historical weather data that was kind of interesting for that time of year, and it just what ifs could be with the weather.
Yeah, the lake fluctuations that have happened. Yep.
Yeah.
It's still dropped down right now.
Yep. It should be, unless they get a ton of rain, be pretty low for the event, historically speaking.
Yeah. I think it's going to be cool, but you know, a little tip here for people right now, that's when you want to be looking at this lake, because if that water comes up, you'll know where that structure is.
Yeah.
So just a little tip there for you guys.
Talk about the next thing I want to accomplish now is to walk across that bass stage.
Yes, sir.
That's a top 10 finish. I just talked to Steve Owens today about it.
Yep.
He told me it was top 10, and I hadn't heard that yet. I heard that it was going to be like the top 3 or the top 5. I didn't know it was going to be the top 10. So, I mean, there's 10 people, you know.
Yeah, that's my goal too. That was my goal with the whole FLW partnership. I was really close there at Nickajack. Again, you know, things happen. You don't make it, and that's kind of a heartbreaker. Then Wichita, things happen, and I didn't make it. And that's been a dream of mine since I was 14, is to walk on those stages, both of those stages. I've been an FLW and a Bass member since I was 14, you know. And so, like, for me, that's huge. That's what I want to do. I want to walk across. I don't care about the money. I don't care about any of it other than just experiencing that. So I'm doubling down, like you're saying. Like, I've put in so much time on this, and I don't want to jinx myself, but, you know, I'm really focused on it as well. So Brundle, what's your next event, my man?
Santee Cooper.
Okay. Going down there. I wonder if the kid's going back to try and
Yeah, he's going.
Oh, watch out. He's gonna be fighting for that one. So have you fished Santee Cooper?
He spends all his time catching animals and ducks and lizards, and whatever else.
He does. He does. That kid could make a YouTube channel just about all of his random experiences with animals, feeding raccoons and whatnot. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So you're hitting up Santee Cooper. Is that your first time going down there?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then what do you got after that? Are you going to be at the bass event?
I probably won't be at any bass events till lacrosse.
Ooh, that's gonna be a fun one. That's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah,
Sure.
I had so much fun out there this past year that I want to get back there. And I had already committed to all the rest of the KBF stuff, Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. I'm gonna try and sneak in, hopefully, a pro event here and there. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but.
Very good. Dan,
plus I direct a trail here, one of the local clubs, so I've got a lot of time invested in that as well. So,
what club is that?
Any Bassin.
Northeast Bassin?
Yeah, Any Bassin. It's I direct the Cape Cod Kayak Series here.
Very cool. All right. So Dan, my man, Detective Dan, where are you headed next, buddy?
It's going to be Logan Martin for me too. I live right here, and I'm definitely, it's an hour. That's I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite, but I mean, I love Logan Martin. Pickwick's my favorite, but yeah, it's a lake I get to fish pretty often. It's going to be fun. I don't have a motor. I like, that's kind of the only thing that I'm, that's a little, I know both Derek and Kurt, both y'all are motor guys, and you as well, Sam. So, that's the only thing I'm a little bit worried about that event. I've never fished in a motor event. So, yeah.
Yeah, me paddling, there's a problem.
Say what?
I said, if you see me paddling, there's a problem.
Man, let's hear it. Come on, man.
Top 3 baits?
Yeah, top 3 baits, Logan Martin, in early March.
Early March. It depends on if you're fishing for spots or largemouth.
Your top 3 baits, man.
Well, I'm fishing for the largest fish in the lake. Longest, not largest. Longest fish in the lake. What 3 baits? What 3 baits do I need to throw?
What?
I thought we almost had him.
No, it's fine. Okay, Logan Martin, that time of year, you got to throw something on the bottom. So whether that's shaky head or a football jig, something like that, you're going to be fishing live points, off pockets. I really think it's going to take a largemouth. There's some big spots. If you go down south has more quantity. Up middle lake, a little bit better fish, but it could get tough, and then you need to go down south and catch a bunch of fish. So, not trying to give anything away there, but you're going to fish. It's a lot of rock and some docks. So usually some kind of Senko, wacky rig, or Texas rig fishing docks. Going to have a shaky head, and then probably a jig, just flipping jig, flipping hardcover, lay downs, things like that. I mean, those always play on Logan Martin. Now, I'm not giving anything away. So
yeah. All right. Very cool. Very cool. So,
but I've seen people win down south too. So you can go down south and catch them too. I'm not saying that's not a great part of the lake too, but yeah.
Kurt's just excited he can throw a shaky head and catch them.
Oh man, Texas rig. Just give me a Texas rig bite, man. That's all I want.
That's all you want.
I love to fish stocks. I'll just fish stocks all day. I'm okay with that.
I found something pretty juicy. I'm not gonna lie. And then I got a buddy who's not far from there as well, who shared some juice with me. So we'll go see, check it out. But you know what? It doesn't matter. You can find all you want during prep. You got to go down and figure out that bite. And that's the thing. We could sit here and literally tell people exactly what to catch them on. But that doesn't mean they're going to find the fish, or vice versa. We can tell them where to go, but that doesn't mean they're going to figure out the bite. So that's what makes this sport fun and challenging. And that's what I love about it. All right. So we've talked about the tournaments. We've talked about what it means for you. We've talked about what's up next. Let's finish this off with what are the goals for 2020. Kurt, you already started talking about it a little bit. It was to get the TOC. Now it sounds like it's AOY. Are there any other goals in there for you for 2020? Statements you want to make?
Man, well, no statements, because this is fishing and things can change on a dime. But man, my goals are walking across the bass stage at Logan Martin, Angler of the Year for Hobie, the National Championship for KBF, and I think that's enough.
What's the national championship goal? Is it to qualify for 2021 or is it to win this year?
Well, I'm permanently qualified.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. Because you won a tournament or something like that.
But you know, I mean, the national championship is win or lose to me. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, that's my mentality I'm going into it with, man. I really want to win it. You know.
How do you feel about Guntersville?
And so do 683 other guys, or whoever, you know, how many ever else are signed up. They all want to win it. We're all hungry for it, man. That's what makes it so exciting and so hard, is that, let's face it, man, everybody's in it, right? Yeah. Everybody's in it. I mean, if you're qualified and you don't go to that and you live within 8 hours, it's kind of weird.
Agreed.
You know, unless you got a job or you know, some family thing, you know, something like that. But if you're just like, you know, I qualified, but I just, you know, I don't think I'm gonna go. That's just kind of weird if you're a tournament angler. You know what I mean? It's the biggest. It's literally our biggest event. It's not the biggest stage, because I think the Bass and the FLW stage are the biggest stages. Sure. But it's our biggest tournament and our biggest payout. Let's face it, man. You do well in that, man, you're set for a couple years. I mean, even if you're like third or fourth, you know, you walk with 10 grand, man, I can stretch 10 grand for
a lot of entry fees. A lot of entry fees for sure.
Yeah.
So what is your feelings about it being on Guntersville? Are you excited about Guntersville? Does that challenge you a little bit? What are some of the thoughts there?
You know, I'm really excited that it's on Guntersville. I'm very excited about Guntersville. The only hesitation I have about it being on Guntersville is that Guntersville is a big lake, don't get me wrong, but it fishes very small. Yeah, I mean, much smaller than, honestly, much smaller than any other southern lake I've been on. Yeah. There's only so many access points. There's only so many good fishing spots around those places, you know. And my prediction is it's going to be someone who finds that different fish, and you're going to probably hear, I saw 2 people all day. And that's what you're going to hear from the guy who wins it.
I think so too. I think you're going to have a lot of guys up top fishing that traditional structure that we all know plays in the spring. I think that's going to be tough, because not only do you have tournament anglers out there, but that time of year, everyone is traveling from all over the country to go hit the same exact spots that we all know. So I think those are going to play, because someone is still going to catch them, or people are going to still catch them in those areas. But I think you're right. It's going to be that person that finds exactly what you guys are talking about, that different area.
3 days. Yeah. 3 days of good fish.
Right. And that's the other thing about those more traditional honey holes that everyone knows about, those community spots. They're very inconsistent and have been very inconsistent in past events. So it's definitely going to be an interesting tournament. I haven't been to Guntersville in a long time, but I'm excited to get back down there. But I think it's going to be extremely challenging to put 3 days worth of good limits together. So it's going to be fun for sure.
I'd be happy to guide anybody for a nominal fee. So yeah, just holler at me. I do live 2 hours away. I go up there pretty regular.
But yet you're not fishing the event.
I didn't fish KBF last year, so no, I'm not in it.
So hold on. Let's talk
the jackhammer.
How much does one chatterbait give me?
Let's talk about that for a second, Dan. So you are right there on the lake. You know the lake well, right? You knew it was the NC was going to be on Guntersville. Did it just slip your mind not to fish, or?
I know.
Okay. All right.
I'm kicking myself, but you know, it is what it is.
Well, Fair enough. Not in it, man. The top 3 baits for Guntersville.
And pause. I'll edit this out if you say anything. A red lipless crankbait, a swim bait, and a jackhammer.
What day is it? It's at the end of March, right?
Yeah, end of March.
April 2nd through the 4th.
Yeah. I got 3rd in a tournament there last year for North Alabama, and it was out of 70-some people. And I had 4 fish that come off that would all have given me 1st place. So, I mean, it's And they were all over 5.
What'd they come off on?
I'll tell you.
Gotta pay up, huh?
Yeah.
I'll
give you spots. I'll give you baits, whatever you want. Hit me up.
Anything for $1.
It's just regular post spawn. I mean, you can find it all online. There's nothing. Alabama and Gunnersville, there's so much pressure and so many people that fish here, so many videos, so much, fishing reports. Nobody's going out there with a secret bait and catching them. You're just going to be in the right area at the right time whenever them bigs show up.
Okay. All right, DB, Mr. Angler of the Year for Northeast, Rookie of the Year for the entire nation, and top 3 finisher at the 10. What's left for you? What's the next goal? What's that next piece?
Well, and it's been said a few times tonight, but I definitely want a chance to walk across that bass stage for sure. And I think I might be able to do that at La Crosse. I know there's probably going to be a ton of people there, but man, there's something special about that place that I really kind of connected with when I was up there. So I think I might be able to make that happen there. I would definitely like to finish top 10 at the NC for sure. I've never been to Garnersville, but I've never been to any of these lakes before either. So I'm just going to go there with the same intentions that I always go with and adjust accordingly. And I would really, I hate putting stuff out there, but I really want to win Angler of the Year this year for KBF.
So for Trail, Pro Tour, which one?
For the Trail, because I don't think I'm going to make enough pro events to do it.
Okay.
But definitely for the Trail series, I want to make a run at AOI for sure.
Awesome. Well, you made a hell of a run last year, and I can totally see you landing in that. You're already off to a great start. So I think I lost my co-host here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he's probably getting 100 messages for Huntersville, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing this isn't live, or
Right?
he would yes totally be getting blown up right now, and his weekend is going to be jam packed because this will air on Friday, and he's gonna be busy. That's for sure. So, well, I just tried calling him and I couldn't get him back in here. So what we're going to do, guys, we're going to kind of wrap this thing up. I think we've had some really great conversation, and there's definitely been some gems in here for the audience. So I hope they had a pad and paper or a pen and paper ready. But anything else that you guys want to talk about before we start closing this up?
Man, I would just like to thank my sponsors, man.
Yes, let's do that.
You want to go first, man?
Sure, yeah. I mean, definitely the sponsors are what keeps us rolling, keeps us in the game. Definitely New Canoe for me. They've stepped up huge for me and really provide me with basically whatever I ask for and whatever I need. I couldn't be more proud to be a part of New Canoe. I also got in with a rod company that's just coming out, Exotic High Performance Rods. I've been doing a lot of testing and designing with them. They performed unbelievable down there in Florida this past week. Tight Lines Worldwide is a really neat apparel company that has strong ties to the fishing community. So really enjoy being a part of that with them. Motor Guide, of course, everybody probably sick of hearing about my Motor Guide, but I love that thing. If my wife would let me put it in the bed next to me and sleep with me, then it probably would, but there's no room left with her and the dog, so the Motor Guide's got to sleep in the basement. But Thrasher Sports Apparel, they do all my jerseys for me. Castaic Lures, Reaction Strike, Amped Outdoors, my lithium sponsor. I love those batteries. They weigh practically nothing, and they last all day long. So Amphibia Eye Gear, I think probably in my opinion some of the best sunglasses out there. And I think that's it. If I missed anybody, I truly apologize, but
well, it sounds like you got a lot of great support there, man. So
I do. I'm very fortunate.
shout out to all those guys. And I want to hear about your battery on that motor guide. I want to know. So I'm gonna offline. I want to talk to you and see how long you're getting and stuff. I'm curious.
Yep.
I always like compare all these different battery brands. So it's interesting. You think a lithium battery is a lithium battery, but they're all different.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Well, thanks for coming on tonight, Derek, and appreciate you taking the time to do that for us. And congratulations on another outstanding tournament. And I wish you the best this season, my man.
Yeah, thank you. I wish you guys the best as well. I mean, thanks for having me on. It's been a great episode in my opinion. I get to talk with Kurt, obviously, you guys, and hopefully we all get together on the water at some point and maybe go head to head or something foolish.
It sounds like you need to consider Logan Martin.
I know. What is the date?
It is going to be it's on a Wednesday. It's like the
Thursday.
Or Thursday. It's like the 7th, I think, or the 5th. No, let's see. The 29th is Sunday, so
It's March, right?
Yeah. First week of March, same time as the Bassmaster Classic. So
right before the Bassmaster Classic.
And what's great about it is you can get down there on the weekend, practice, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, tournaments on Thursday. Then you get to experience the expo and the classic if you hang out, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, or Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So pretty cool event. There's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of parties, I can just tell you from previous classic experience if you've never been to one. So definitely something to consider. Love to see you down there. Just saying.
Yeah, man, it's not off the table. Let's put it that way.
There we go. Sold them. You're welcome, Bass. You're welcome. There's another entry fee. All right, Derek. Well, thanks again, man. And I'm going to give our boy Kurt here an opportunity to thank his amazing sponsors.
All right, Kurt. Good luck, brother. We'll see you guys out on the trail.
So I'd like to first thank Hobie. They're a big sponsor of mine, man. I've been a sponsor with them before I was doing tournaments, and they've just been a huge sponsor and a huge supporter of the community with the BOS series. If you haven't checked out the Hobie Bass Open Series, definitely do so. Another big sponsor of mine is Strictly Sail. If you need a Hobie kayak and you live in the tri-state area of Cincinnati, Ohio, come check them out. They also have a great online store. Fishing Online, all your fishing tackle needs, go there. Those guys are great guys. Incredibly fast shipping, which is awesome. And they all fish and they know what it's all about. Yak Attack, Ketch boards, never lost leashes, Torpedo. I always forget somebody in there, and I think that's actually everybody right there. I'm sorry, I just picked up Picasso, so I'm not used to saying them. And I don't want to forget Picasso because I used some of their gear this weekend, and I used their 1/4 ounce tungsten that has this crazy hard coating on it. It does not chip. Check them out, man. It's killer stuff.
So, Kurt, I want to ask you something real quick. And this isn't a question that I've often asked, but as you're sitting there and you're talking about sponsors, it kind of pops into my head. You've been in the game a little while now. You kind of understand it. You work a lot in the retail side as well, and doing these shows and these expos and that sort of stuff. So we have a lot of people that obviously listening to our podcast who are maybe just new, getting into the tournament side of things. And they see these guys and they hear these guys ramble off these sponsors and they think, hey, that's something that I need or that's something that I would want. I have products that I like to represent, but I don't know how to go about this whole staffing thing. And I'm not talking about like the traditional like pro staff badge type thing, right? We're talking about actual partnerships and relationships with companies. You've done a great job of building those. Is there any advice you could give to our listeners about how to go about that the right way?
Well, the right way, you put it the right way just by how you described it, man. You have to build relationships. And the first thing that I would say is don't pick up any meaningless sponsorship, man, just to have them as a sponsor. If someone's just going to give you 10%, they're really not working with you. But let's say it's a company that you are already using their stuff and paying full price for, and you love their product. And that's your foot in the door with them. Those are the guys to pick. The guys to pick that you want to work with is stuff that you would pay full price for. Every single one of my sponsors are people that I paid full price for their stuff before I got on their teams. Every single one of them I had to work for to get on the team. You know, I had to spend hours of not getting compensated for promoting their product to get on their team. But it took a while to develop these. And I'm not the best guy at it. You know, the best guy I know at it's like Ron Champion, you know. He really has these amazing relationships with these outstanding companies, you know. And honestly, I talk to Ron a lot of times for advice on it. But and that's the way to get started, though. That's the way to get your foot in the door, is to go to these companies that you already believe in. You know, you believe in them so much that you pay the extra to use their stuff, you know, because you're going to find, once you get into this and have some success, anybody is going to find this, that you can pick up garbage sponsors left and right. You know, I mean, let's face it, there's some companies out there that I'm not going to mention, but you can go on there right now and have no experience and be on their pro staff. You know, those aren't the companies you want, because quite honestly, the quality companies know who those other companies are, and they'll shy away from you if you say you're associated with them.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely, and honestly, you know, most of the time those partnerships don't ever go anywhere, and that's what it's all about. It's about building that partnership over a long period of time. It doesn't happen quick. Everyone seems to think it's like the flip of a switch, and it's not. It's not that way. So, all right, cool. I always think it's great to get people's take on that who have been in the industry a little bit longer, because it's always a little more well developed, and I think it's more insightful than just asking, you know, somebody that's just getting started. Yeah. So, all right, very cool. Well, I got to go over some tourney recaps, or not tourney recaps, some upcoming tournaments. I've lost my co-host, so unless you want to stay around and go over these with me.
Sure, man, I'll hang out.
All right, cool. Kurt's gonna assume co-host duties for Dan right now. So hey, you know, Dan and I usually talk about the tournaments that we're gonna go over prior to recording, so you haven't had that opportunity. So I'll kick it off here, but. So we're going to talk about 3 tournaments tonight, and we're going to recap those on the next episode. We're finally back into this tournament season. I'm super excited about it. So the first one is actually Southeast Texas Kayak Bass Fishing League. Huge league out in Texas, and they're on tournament number 2 for their season. One of our other hosts on Paddle and Fin, Dustin Nichols, fishes with this group. And they've got a tournament next weekend on the 8th, and it's on Fairfield Lake, which I'm not familiar with. I don't know if you are or not, but if it's in Texas, it's got to be good, right?
Yeah.
Or at least have the potential to be good. So it looks like they got like 23 anglers signed up already, all Texas boys, it looks like, for the most part. And that should be a pretty cool one. That's a typical 5-fish limit tournament. But the rest of the details aren't really in here yet. Like, everything's to be determined. So that'll be a cool
about
one.
that. They're on tournament number 2 already.
I know, right? And I'm like dying to get in one.
Yeah, in Ohio, we still have like another month before our first tournament.
We start in April here in Indiana, and we had ice up until this warm front and this rain. It probably freeze now as everything's getting cold again. But like, I'm itching. So I wish I could have made those tournaments, but man, everything's in like Texas or Florida, and it wasn't happening for me this year with birthdays and all kinds of things going on. But that should be a really good event. The next one that we're going to be talking about next weekend is Queen City. So we actually just had Vinny on. He was a guest. Was it 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago? We had him on. Really cool club out there. Doing some really awesome stuff. They get great participation. They're going to be on Lake Murray or Murray. I don't know how they pronounce it down there, but they're sitting with over like 50. Oh my gosh, over 60 people already signed up for that event.
Yeah, anglers. Wow.
Yeah, and that's a club event, Queen City kayak bass fishing. A lot of great anglers signed up in this one.
Wow, man, 60 anglers already.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm watching that South Carolina, North Carolina area because Hobie's got a big event there on Norman. And was it April? I think it's like second week of April or something like that.
Yep.
So I'm kind of watching that really closely because that's like one event that I might be able to make. So just kind of.
Have you been to the Hobie event yet?
No.
You need to make them, man. They set the benchmark so incredibly high for everybody else.
Yeah, I know. I've interviewed so many guys who have fished the Hobie events, and I've watched it. Obviously, for some reason, last year and this year, all of their events like hit bad timing for me. They did last year, and it does kind of this year. But I'm trying to work one in. So that Norman one's on my list, and the lacrosse and stuff like that. So we'll see. Hopefully. And then the last one we're covering, which I don't know that we've covered one on our show before, out of Oklahoma kayak anglers. They're doing a fundraiser event. So this is pretty cool. It's giving back to a great cause. You have to forgive me. I don't remember off the top of my head what that cause was. But they've got a tournament going on out there in Oklahoma, but only 4 people signed up so far for that. So
it seems like it'd be cold in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering when I pulled it up and I looked at what was available on TourneyX, what tournaments were coming up. I was a little surprised to see Oklahoma. I know it doesn't freeze out there, but it definitely does get cold and the bite can get tough. But they're fishing February 7th. And they got 4 anglers signed up right now. So if you're in Oklahoma, check that out and jump on that. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Those are the tournaments. That Texas one will be interesting to see what kind of numbers come out of Texas now. So
I'm excited. Those Texas boys always put up some big fish.
Yeah, I always enjoy watching those. Are you going to get out to Texas this year at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Hobie's Lake Fork in March, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make that one. I think that's just the bass is kind of
the priority.
Well, I don't want to say it's a priority. Oh yeah, it's a priority.
It's okay. There's plenty of guys that's their priority. I'm super focused on it. It's one of the reasons that I wasn't too upset about missing some of these other tournaments. It just gave me that much more time to kind of focus on that event. But it'll be interesting. There's nothing wrong.
And it's only like 8 hours away.
Right. Much closer than Texas for us. So, all right. Well, Kurt, thanks for jumping on, man. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit longer so I wasn't by myself going through next week's tournaments. And I appreciate you, as always, my friend. I look forward to seeing you this weekend at the Columbus, Ohio Fishing Expo. You're going to be at the Strictly Sail booth. Is that right?
Yep, I'll be at the Strictly Sail booth on Saturday, man. So if anyone's interested in Hobies or kayak fishing or just want to talk fishing in general, man, stop on by and I'll be there. I'll be more than happy to hang out, man. That's what it's all about. I'll see you there. We'll hang out for a little while. And is Alan coming?
I don't think Alan's gonna make it. I don't think he's gonna make it. So I'll be working at the Biz Baits booth, and I'll kind of jump over with the guys over at Accent from time to time. And then of course I'll be walking around and hanging out with everyone. But we'll get together, maybe do dinner or something after the show. So that'll be fun. And I'm heading down tomorrow, so I'm gonna be there like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's gonna be a long haul for me. But it's all good. I enjoy it. So. All right, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, man. See you.
All right, later. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Deuces.
Go check out the website, guys. Paddle the letter N in fin.com. Also check out YouTube. youtube.com/paddleandfin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at paddleandfin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products. Go to ketchproducts.com. You can put the paddle and fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.